Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Spot Hogg Fast Eddie XL update and final review. All right. So I've made some changes, obviously, because I'm like, oh, this is driving me bonkers. So I've put their whole network the way they show it in the picture on the website, and well, you do get a picture of this actually in the pathetic instructions, which, by the way, link down below in the description box, takes you to my original review on this. And yeah, anyway, so I finally found a YouTuber that has the exact same precise version as mine, okay, in every way. And what he says is, when you extend this out, okay, it is going to be really sensitive for movement, which could explain why so many missed shots happen at a longer range. 20, 30 yards, no big deal, okay? After that, it is definitely falling apart, whether you have wind to deal with or not. It is definitely going to get nasty. But at 20 yards, I mean, I had no problem getting a dead bullseye. I mean, I've resighted this thing, or wow, recalibrated it 3 times now. And the third time, of course, is still not quite a perfect charm, but I gotta say, things are looking a lot better. So when it's out, it's more for an advanced shooter, somebody who's very rock steady, etc., etc., okay? And I'm definitely not rock steady, and I'm sure many of you watching this aren't either, so you're gonna probably not want to have this extended out. Plus, it does affect range. Same as when you push it in, it does affect range as well, except it makes it more steadier. However, the more you push it in, the more sensitive your windage dial becomes over here. Now, you do have a block windage set up as well, so you have to start out with this micro adjust dead center, and then you kind of set this up the best way you can figure out how. The instructions aren't going to help you, so don't worry. You're on your own for this one. Anyway, so I think I've pretty much got this part fine and good. My windage is pretty much centered still. It's a little bit, I think it's about 1 or 2 clicks difference, but it's dead perfect at 20 yards, which means that if you have absolutely no wind to deal with and you are a rock steady shot, you should have no problem going bullseyes after bullseyes at any range, okay? But we all know that after a certain range, either way, we're going to have a little bit of wind drift from the arrow as it is when it's spinning around and doing its thing going toward the target. So we will experience a little bit, but we should never ever experience massive outages. So, but when this is close in, this dial is very sensitive. 1 click the wrong way and that could push you way over by about 3-4 inches. So make sure you're a steady shot. So I've got this worked out, and I've got this thing running dead on, which is great. However, you still are not going to be able to attain 100 yards out of this sight on the vast majority of bows that are out there, whether it's an older model bow or a newer model. Good luck and best of luck trying to get that dial to go to 100 yards on the first or even the second pin, because this still creates a height problem between your rest and the bottom of the canopy of the scope part, okay? Anyway, and it doesn't matter if you have a left-handed version of this like mine on a left-handed bow, or if you have the right-handed version of a right-handed bow, makes no difference. You're gonna run into some problems. Now, when you go and you bring this whole unit down, each hole, of course, is going to give you, going downward, you're going to get more back off, okay? Like, this is how it's set right now, okay? I'm on 20 yards, okay? Now, I can literally do this up to this distance. I really got to tape that down. And I'm on my 100-yard mark. Actually, I'm about 101 yards on my top pin going this way. But, of course, this isn't 100 yards. This is the end of the damn tape, okay? So I still have this much here. Now watch what happens as I go to 20 yards. That's my 20-yard mark on my top pin right there. That's an awful lot of movement. So you lose an awful lot out of the sight. But if you bring this down more, this part becomes less available to you, okay? Now, I don't need to go down to 6 inches in front of my target, okay? But the one advantage this does have is because you have to sight this in at a minimum of 20 yards for the calibration, etc. Okay, so you're shooting automatically no matter what, minimum 20 yard. Okay, and then you go up from there, and you can use one of the two pins. Now they have a single pin version of this, which is the exact same stem, except it only has one filament instead of two like mine. It's the only difference. Okay, now with that, when you move this down means up. Okay, so and going up in height means lower shot. So the higher you go up, the lower your shot is. The lower you go, the higher your shot is. And of course, you already know how windage works, except like I said before in the original video, there's no left and right marking with arrows to tell you which way to turn the dial, to go to the left, to move your arrow to the right, or vice versa. That is something that should be here. But eventually, one of these days, you may memorize that. So I guess the company really doesn't give a crap for all the money they charge us to put in proper instructions, proper labeling on the device, etc., etc. So yeah, that's really leaving a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, should in yours too. But for $350, once it is calibrated, it's still a really damn good sight either way, and it is quality built, made in USA. So anyways, moving along with this, I was able to get this no problem, 60 yards. I got 60 yards right here. This is fine. All right, so when it comes to the arrow distance, that's your biggest thing you need to worry about. Now, 60 yards, I still have plenty of clearance for my arrow. Now, I'm going to only use the top pin, and I'll tell you why. The bottom pin is absolutely pointless and useless because, well, it blocks the majority of what you're trying to sight in at. So if you can't see your target, you can't shoot it. Use the top pin for everything, you'll have no problem. Which brings to mind, why do they make a 3, 5, and a 7 pin and even a triple stack system? It is absolutely stupid and ridiculous, okay? Kind of like the big friggin' ring that they have that's pre-installed. Okay, you need to make a decision as soon as you open that package. Am I going to go with this, or am I going to go with the narrower ring, which actually fits flush to the insides and everything, where this is much smaller hole on the inside here. And this, of course, makes for more height on the backside, which means you're going to lose range of calibration as well as, range of your sight tape, period. Anyhow, let's continue on. So if I move this to 70 yards on the top pin, that might clear. It might. I have not shot at 70 yards, so I don't know. But to be honest, I could care less. But it does put you to about 70, moves you to about 77-ish, 78. Okay, is about where you're going to be. Now, if this clears, that is the most that this bow is going to get with this sight. Okay, and believe me, there's no other way around this as far as I know. Okay, because see where your burger hole is to the center of this unit. Okay, there's a lot of a distance issue here. Okay, now if this sight actually mounted up even a couple of inches higher on the riser, man, we'd have no problem attaining 100 yards on every bow if we had that distance to work with, but unfortunately we don't. Okay, so bows that will have more distance will easily attain 100 yards, but bows that don't have that spacing, well, we're all screwed. We're not getting our 100 yards of this thing. And I've pushed this thing in all the way, which did help with range. It gave me a little extra, which he said we would get by pushing this in. One more dimple to go to come in, which might get me a 5-yard bonus if I'm lucky. But deer season is coming up fast. I still have a lot of practicing to do and a lot of shooting at 60 pounds, because that's the other thing. You're going to need 60 pounds of draw weight with even a 400 grain arrow. So if you're running even heavier arrows, you're going to need 70 or more draw pounds of weight in order to attain that 60-yard dead-on perfect level at least. Your windage isn't going to be dead on at 60 yards because, the fun factors of, how straight are your arrows spinning, Is there any kind of wind whatsoever? Because that can shift you as it's flying. And the longer you have to shoot an arrow, the less impact it's going to have at the end of the target too. I don't even know if 60 yards can actually even kill anything that's 60 pounds with this thing. Okay, but I'm not about to try either. If my deer is not within the range of 35 yards and under, I ain't taking the shot. Okay, I need all the impact I can get. Okay. And besides, if I ran a 520 grain arrow in this thing, for example, I'm going to have, I might get 60 yards if I go to 70 pounds on my limbs, because that extra 120 grains is a lot of weight. Okay, so these are things you got to keep in mind. All right, now I'm pretty sure that the best sight on the planet is probably going to be the HHA sight or something even similar to it that's more precision, better setup, etc., etc. I mean, the Spot Hogg is the Spot Hogg, and it's a $350 site in Canada, $336 US off of their site directly even, and that's for the version that has 2 filament single shaft like this. Now, you don't get a light with this either, by the way. I have one on here, but I had to buy that separate for an extra, I think it was like 20-some dollars, which was fine. It didn't bother me to spend the money. Anyhow, but 20 yards, I'm going to go to 30 yards. Now, if I end up having to go out as far as 40 yards, I still have a pile of clearance here, okay? And when I was calibrating at this time, at the 50-yard mark on the calibration, I hit a dead perfect bullseye. So I know that my windage is not being affected when there's absolutely no wind. But I did start to get a little bit fatigued. So I did have to take a break before I could finish, and that extra 10 yards to 60 yards, that took a number of shots before I actually got things right, okay, and at the right sight tape where I'm going to have to put the correct sight tape on. Now, in the case of the Matthews Mission hammer bow like this, we're at 60 pounds of draw, and we ended up with sight tape number 4. Okay, and that is with this current setup, leaving one dimple in front here that we can still go in with, and having this set up in here. Okay, so I'm leaving it alone to the spring. Now, the other thing you got to do too on this thing is you got to make sure that this the level when your bow is sitting level and like perfectly vertical, that you make sure you adjust this level. It's a little bit of, manipulation with these 2 screws here. But once you get it and it's perfectly level, you're good to go. Another way to pre-check level to see where you're at is to literally take your quiver off, put your 2 limbs down on the edge of the table, okay, so that they sit perfectly flat and even, and then see how much your level is out. That will actually, you're still going to need 2 people to do it because you got to make adjustments. But I found out that trick actually works. Because I have a PSE Stinger 3G with a different sight, obviously. It's not a precision sight. And there's no way to actually balance the level of that that I'm aware of, okay? So, at least not like this is. This is weird because it's high precision everything on this thing. But it turned out that trick worked. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to check my bow out because we had the guy at the archery place, he actually held the bow with a tall level to make sure it would be level for that part, and then I did the adjustments here and then locked it down, and then he finished tightening everything up, and turned out we are bang on perfect level, which means that when you are shooting, you have to shoot this level. If you can't your bow in the very middle, the least, you're going to throw your arrow whichever direction you're canting, okay? It is not going to go well for you. So you have a few things to do when you're setting this up. You have to focus on the level to make sure that's square, and you got to focus on all of this and your target, okay, all at the same time, and that is a little bit of a pain. Now, I am going to recommend something to you that was recommended to me by my archery guy, and that is to get some paper plates. I have 2 more bows I have to calibrate because I swapped sights on them. Now, what I did to make it easier to see is I painted this black. I had a circular object that I could just lay down on here. I centered it all up, and then Then I spray painted the black, and then I put a yellow sticker in the middle of this, so it's in the middle, and that's what I'm aiming for. Now that I can hit, okay? So, and I can see everything visually. Now the yellow sticker is going to get really damn small at 60 yards. You might not even see it. So I did do one further modification. I put a group of stickers evenly laid down to make it a little bit bigger, so I had a better chance at 60 yards. Because you won't believe it, but 60 yards is 180 feet. And even this plate gets really freaking small at 60 yards. So do yourself a favor and do this, and then tape this onto your target. And it doesn't matter where you tape it, you got to aim for the bullseye either way. So, but do that, and that'll make your life a lot better and less miserable for getting this thing all set up. Now, but the only thing I want to change about my review is I think I'll give this thing, I'm going to give it a 3 3/4. It has to lose points for not being that it's not perfect anyway. But it's all the other negatives about this thing and the frustrations that you're going to come across. And the instructions are lunacy, okay? I mean, they're absolute lunacy. The website is not going to help you out at all, okay? I mean, especially with this model of their particular XL, there is nothing, okay? So you're going to have to search YouTube videos like mine and learn about it and learn about what you're going to be dealing with and things to not do if you want to get a decent experience with this thing. So now the only other thing I did to achieve my perfect 60 was I got a little frustrated. I broke a bunch of arrows, which I've never done on any other calibration. I've never shattered arrows, nothing. I literally shattered 3 arrows because of the way they went past. I jump shot it. I was getting fatigued, and I'm like, geez. Because now my bow also weighs 6.2 pounds fully loaded, and the way it is. And so I actually took the stabilizer off the front because it comes off separate and the legs still stay there. So I took it off, and that gave me just the balance I needed to finish my sight in. And it took like, I think 1 or 2 shots, and that was it. I got a perfect dead level. Now I didn't hit the paper plate, but I was perfect level for my bullseye, and I was only out by this much. And my target is, I think it's about 20 inches. It's not 2 feet, but this was dead in the center. So I was only out by about 4 inches off the edge of the plate, which does put me out about 8 inches to the right, and that was fine because the arrow came in dead perfect level. So I was like, oh, thank goodness. Finally, and I was like happier than you can be. I checked the sight tape number, and yeah, honey, we need number 4 out. So we got number 4, and away we go. We're rocking. So, but the one bonus here before we go is the simple fact that with this exact setup the same way, you can backtrack now because you are perfect 20. Okay, you can now backtrack to like 15 yards, 10 yards, even 5 if you wanted to. Although I don't know why you'd want to go that way. But I'm thinking, I might take this to like 15 yards as a solid, and then 10 yards as a solid, and just put dash marks on whatever tape I'm going to use to do that with. And then that actually gives me an increase. But because if you were to dial this, like I said, we do have that stopping point, but the way this also goes too is when you're fully turned down, it's not moving any further. We're at like 96 yards on the top pin, and we're past 100 on the bottom pin, but you're never getting an arrow to go in there. I mean, like literally, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, in fact, that's being pushed up a bit. That's pretty much level. So there is no way in heck you're getting 100 yards out of this thing, no matter what we do. Okay. So, and I've had this whole sight unit at the last screw on the bottom, and I still wasn't going to get anywhere near there. But I did gain, I would probably say I gained almost 10 yards by taking this from, having, I think we had like 2 or 3 nubs free back here to 1 nub in the front free. So that is quite the slide in difference. So between that and putting this centralized, I think I gained about 10 yards accessibility. for adjustment over what we did have before. So you can check that video and you'll find out exactly what our safety area was so that we don't have a aero collision. But yeah, that's the Spot Hogg Fast Eddie XL, boys and girls. To each their own. If you want to buy it, buy it. Just be aware that if you have not a lot of space like this bow, and a lot of bows out on the market do not have a big gap between your sight and your burger hole, you're likely going to be one of the other people that are not going to see 100 yards out of this sight at all, okay? It's just not going to happen. So, and like I said, the other guy mentioned the same thing. So, as far as the bracket goes, okay, this little piece, I don't even show it anywhere in the manual or whatever. That can now go on here if I want it to, but I don't want to because I want to get that backtrack ability, and if I put this on, I won't get that. So anyway, another piece of stuff for whatever. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is definitely the end of the Spot Hogg as far as all that goes. We won't be talking anymore about this thing till probably next spring or something, because I am going to try another little trick to recalibrate and see if I can squeeze a little bit more out of it. I'm never going to hunt past 35, 40 yards, but I still like to be able to get what I'm paying for, if you know what I mean. And right now, none of us, well, the vast majority of us are not achieving that 100-yard dialing capability and missing the hood underneath with an arrow. So that kind of sucks for that part. You think all the money you paid, they actually would design it a bit better, which they very well could have, but apparently they didn't. So there you go. Thanks for watching. See ya.